Hey there, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a truly fascinating sermon that dives deep into how biblical texts interpret the whole spiritual phenomenon of dreams. If you've ever woken up from a crazy, vivid dream and thought, wait, did that actually mean something? Well, you are definitely in the right place. We're going to explore this incredible idea that our dreams aren't just, random brain activity or the pizza we ate last night, but actually a deeply spiritual channel. So, do dreams actually speak to us? The source material we're looking at today presents a really bold core premise. It argues that dreams are a profound, interactive medium of communication. The sermon makes the case that when our physical bodies finally power down and all those loud daily distractions fade away, our spiritual awareness essentially gets cranked up. It's right there, in that exact state of quiet vulnerability, that God steps in to speak directly to us. Okay, so to tackle this, the sermon breaks the whole concept down into 5 key themes. We'll be looking at the source of dreams, sharing dreams, discerning the dreams, warnings and protection, and finally, prayer and guidance. Let's jump right into it. Section 1, the source of dreams. Now, this is crucial. The text draws a really stark contrast between divine communication and deceptive influence. Because according to the sermon, not all dreams come from a divine source. A truly divine dream, that's going to bring a deep sense of peace and ultimately draw you closer to your faith. But on the flip side, deceptive dreams are literally designed to bind you in fear. The source points out that you will physically feel the aftermath of these. You know the feeling, waking up sweating, completely exhausted, or just gripped by panic. That physical hangover, so to speak, is your very first major clue about where the dream came from. To really ground this concept, the sermon points straight to the biblical story of Jacob. And what it highlights here is that a divine dream isn't just a passive movie playing in your head, it's an interactive dialogue. When the angel called out to Jacob in his sleep, Jacob actually replied, "Here I am." Think about that. You aren't just sitting in the back of a dark theater watching a screen. Your spirit is actively reacting, answering, and engaging with a message in real time. Moving on to Section 2, sharing dreams. Looking at the famous narrative of Joseph, the speaker outlines a pretty strict instruction. When you have one of these dreams, you have to share it. You can't just hide it away. Joseph immediately went to his brothers and his father to recount exactly what he saw. The argument here is that when you receive a message through a dream, you have a literal obligation to bring it out into the light, even if, honestly, it sounds completely crazy when you say it out loud. But of course, here's the catch. Sharing these dreams might provoke some intense pushback. The source is very upfront about the real negative reactions people might have to your dreams. We're talking everything from simple disbelief to outright mockery. Joseph's own father scolded him, and his brothers got so incredibly enraged they plotted violence and literally threw him into a pit. So the sermon makes its stance super clear. You don't share a dream expecting a standing ovation. You share it because the message itself demands a voice. Which brings us to Section 3, discerning the dreams. Since not all dreams are from God, the sermon explicitly warns against blindly trusting every single nighttime vision. It introduces this biblical mandate to discern, or test, a dream's true intent. Even if a dream feels incredibly vivid or even predictive, if its ultimate goal is to lead you away from your faith, it's deceptive, period. The speaker emphasizes that God tests the heart here. The question is, will you stay true to your core beliefs, or are you going to be easily swayed by a confusing, flashy vision in the middle of the night? Furthermore, there's an interesting rule of thumb here. If a dream is repeated, like Joseph's visions of the bowing sheaves and the stars, or Pharaoh's dreams, it serves as a confirmed, undeniable message. According to the source, when a dream happens twice, it means the matter is firmly established by divine will. It's essentially a spiritual double underline, basically telling the dreamer, hey, pay immediate and serious attention to this. Now let's look at Section 4, warnings and protection. This part highlights a truly surprising fact. The text points out that God frequently uses dreams to speak to non-believers, specifically to warn them and to protect his chosen people. Just look at the unlikely dreamers here. We've got a foreign king, King Abimelech, being warned not to touch Abraham's wife. Then an enemy Midianite soldier who literally dreamed of a rolling loaf of bread crushing their tent, which was a direct prophecy of Gideon's impending victory. The speaker uses these specific examples to prove that divine dreams are this universal tool used to orchestrate protection behind the scenes. A prime example of this is Pilate's wife. She received a highly distressing dream that was meant to prevent the unjust condemnation of Jesus. The sermon highlights how she actually sent this urgent message to her husband right while he was sitting there on the judgment seat. She wasn't a disciple, yet she received this profound spiritual warning. It perfectly illustrates the assertion that dreams can completely bypass all our waking biases and politics to deliver urgent, absolute truth. But the text notes, these intense visions often carry specific, hidden meanings that worldly astrologers or magicians simply cannot decode. The source draws a really sharp line here between divine revelation and worldly wisdom. It claims that when a dream originates from a divine source, all the logic, magic, or astrological charts in the entire world cannot unpack its true meaning. It is essentially a locked message, and it requires a very specific spiritual key. According to the text, only divine intervention can reveal a forgotten dream and its interpretation. Take King Nebuchadnezzar, for instance. The guy actually forgot his own dream and got so mad he threatened all his wise men. But when Daniel stepped forward, he didn't rely on human intelligence or guesswork. He relied entirely on God to reveal what the lost dream was and to explain its meaning. This reinforces the whole idea that the source of the dream is the only reliable source for its interpretation. And that leads us to our final part, Section 5, Prayer and Guidance. To really show how dreams provide ongoing, practical life direction, the source tracks the Apostle Paul's journey. For Paul, nighttime visions practically dictated exactly where he should travel and how long he should stay. It's an incredible sequence when you lay it out. First, a vision calls him over to Macedonia to help. Later on, a dream instructs him to cast aside his fear and just keep speaking. And finally, a nighttime message directs him to stay put in Corinth for a year and a half. Paul's journey proves that dreams can act as a highly specific, ongoing spiritual navigation system. So, bringing it back to us, the speaker concludes by urging listeners to adopt a specific nightly routine, actively praying for protective dreams and the spiritual clarity to actually understand them. Instead of just, passively falling asleep while scrolling on our phones, we should actively prepare our minds. Step 1, pray for guidance before your head even hits the pillow. Step 2, critically test any dream you receive against your faith. And Step 3, actively seek out divine interpretation rather than just relying on worldly guesswork or dream dictionaries. Ultimately, this entire practice is framed as a vital way to avoid worldly deception. The core takeaway here is that our waking lives are undeniably noisy, right? They are filled with endless distractions and deceptive voices. But when we sleep, all that noise finally stops. If we prepare our hearts correctly, sleep becomes an opportunity, not just for physical rest, but for profound, unclouded spiritual realignment. Which leaves us with a pretty profound question about the uncharted territory of our own resting minds. Think about it. If this source material is right, and the hours we spend unconscious are actually a prime time for receiving vital life guidance, what crucial messages might you be missing when you close your eyes? It definitely changes the way you think about turning off the lights tonight. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and sleep well.